Good morning, everyone. These are hard for me because everyone's on mute and I want to say hi to so many people. We're going to get started. Some people are going to be popping in and out. I want to formally introduce myself before I switch on my presentation. My name is Melanie Towey. I am an EOS implementer. Welcome to What the Heck is EOS? There's a lot of people here. We actually did one of these 2 weeks ago with a fantastic turnout. So we decided to do it again just to give people a high level who are interested. Some of you may have heard of Traction, read Traction, maybe self-implementing EOS, may just be curious. This is really going to give you an overall breakdown of what EOS is and really who it's for, some of the components, and just how it works in your organization. So before we get started, a little bit about me. I've been in the construction, design, building materials industry for the last 10 years. Started on the marketing side, went into the construction management side, back onto the marketing side, and then finally in the sales side. So I've touched a lot of aspects, a lot of hard surface, tile, flooring, very familiar, love the industry. It's a big passion of mine. For those of you who are not in the industry, no worries. EOS is what we call agnostic to any industry. So I typically do work with companies within our own industry. However, I do have clients as well as many other EOS implementers out there. This does work, again, for any company, not specific to construction, design, and building materials. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And guys, as we go through, if you do have questions, I will take at the end. I have everybody on mute. We all know how chaotic that can be, but I will take questions at the end. And if you have them, just put them in the chat and I'll try to make sure that I look at them as we go. All right, so what the heck is EOS? So I want to jump in and just really give the high level of what EOS is. For those of you who don't know what it stands for, EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. This is not a computer operating system. It is a people operating system. So really what it is, it's a foundational set of tools that is used in organizations, really is going to focus on three things. So that first thing is going to be vision. Again, that's just going to be getting everybody in your organization 100% aligned on the same page. This means you're all rowing in the same direction. For those of you in any organization, we've all been in the room where somebody's going right, somebody's going left, somebody's trying to go backwards, somebody's trying to go forwards. This is really just getting, again, you aligned from that 10-year plan and long-term vision and really working backwards into that traction component. So traction is really about discipline and accountability, and this is the biggest part of EOS. And I think in many organizations, if you have a great vision, where it seems to be lacking the most is the discipline and accountability throughout the entire organization. So not resting with one division, not resting with one department, but really just understanding who's accountable for what are we focused on, and the discipline to get there. And then last, it's just about healthy, right? So this is all about helping your leadership team specifically become just that more functional, healthy team, which in turn creates that healthy culture. We all know what that means today. It's so important in every organization of what is the health of your organization? What are those values? What are you bringing, what's your leadership team bringing to the table to share with your team? And really, again, that third pillar of EOS is all about that health throughout the organization. So who is this for? I get asked this question a lot. So I will tell you the sweet spot for EOS is going to be that 10 to 250 employee companies. Yes, we do have clients. I have clients as few as 2. They're just beginning in their business and they really want to establish the right foundational groundwork. I love those clients. They're a lot easier to instill those beliefs in this system than the 250 employee company. It just takes a little bit longer, to unwind the bad habits, we'll call it. There are companies out running on EOS that are in the thousands. Again, the more people you have, obviously, more of a long game of implementing the system, but it does work. Again, this is all about tools and implementing those tools within the business. So again, we talked about the industry. This is designed to work in any industry you're in. So there is not any industry that is agnostic from this. So we have everyone from chambers, board of directors, you know, people in the construction industry, breweries, you name it. It does work for any company. A lot of people ask, what are the buzzwords, right? Who are you looking for? Who does this work for? And a lot of the challenges is frustration is bottom line. So frustrated with profit, frustrated with people, frustrated with they're hitting the ceiling. So a lot of you on this call, whether it's departmental, individual, or company wide, you've kind of hit that growth where what got you here isn't getting you to the next level. So we call that hitting the ceiling. It happens in every organization. I work with a lot of clients that are, you know, hey, I'm at 20 clients, Mel. We're trying to, or 20 employees, excuse me. We're trying to get to that 40. Our revenue is just stuck. We've been stuck for the last year. And that's really when EOS is a game changer in the organization, as those leaders really looking for that quantum leap growth. It's all about the leadership mindset. So again, that open-minded, really, you know, willing to challenge the status quo of what's worked in the organization before. I often tell this story. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a call that says, Mel, we have a sales problem. I do not like taking those clients, nor will I. It's not because you don't have a sales problem. It's because if you're not willing to look at the actual root cause of that, you're not going to actually be able to fix that long term. So we all know that sales is symptomatic of something at a core level in an organization. That's the sweet spot for EOS. If your leadership team is willing to acknowledge that, and again, have those open, honest, harder conversations, this is really what's right for you. I will add too that most of you have read Traction. If you haven't, pick it up. Great read. When you read it, a lot of people go, Mel, what am I missing? This is so simple. This is common sense. And you're right, it is. But we say simple is not easy, right? And so easy is, you know, unwinding bad habits and really just getting back to the basics. We've overcomplicated business on so many levels. And really the EOS is just to simplify and clarify that. So this is the Traction library. I like to put this up just so you can understand. Gino has written now 6 books. There's one that's missing because it just came out in September. It's a great read. I'm going to start on the left and kind of work my way. Again, Traction is the pivotal book. This is really what got EOS off the ground. This was Gino's first book. It walks you through EOS and the entire system and process. Behind that is How to Be a Great Boss. This is for anybody who's in a management seat. I would highly recommend you read it. It's just going to take that one step further to help you instill those foundational tools as a leader and as a manager. We all know that being a manager comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities, and this book really just helps support that. Get a Grip on Your Business is that next book, and Get a Grip is more of a fable style. So if you've read Traction, Get a Grip is actually real businesses working to implement EOS, all the challenges that come up, their issues, their process, the questions they've had. So it really gives you that real life, real world example of how EOS is working to support those organizations. Rocket Fuel, this is one of my favorites for you visionaries out there, as well as you integrators. If you don't and are not familiar with those terms, I highly recommend you read this. If you are in ownership, partner, C-suite, this is something that's going to be a aha for you of really understanding the relationship between what that visionary is and that integrator is. Those are really the two roles that we say are, you know, the glue of the organization. One brings the ideas, one's in execution mode. Not all organizations have them. Some have both, some have none, right? So there's not a right answer, but really just helps break down the personality traits and really what to expect out of both of those roles. And then lastly is What the Heck is EOS? This is really when I start working with clients after we've really had about 6 to 12 months together. I will tell the leadership team it's time to roll this book out to the rest of the organization. So any organization that's running on EOS, every employee ends up getting a copy of What the Heck is EOS. It is a high level, this is what's happening, this is what's been happening behind closed doors with your leadership team, this is what to expect, really gives them a dose of EOS that they can understand, how it impacts their job, how their manager is going to be interacting with them. And is really a good tool, again, as the leadership team has gotten close to really bringing that down to the entire organization. So I also get this question a lot. Mel, is this just the next fad? My answer, and I may be biased because I do this for a living, but no, honestly, I fell into EOS by complete accident. Like so many of you, I got handed the book Traction a couple of years ago when I was back home in Minneapolis, and I fell in love with it. Since then, you know, I think we're closer to the 2 million books being sold. There is over 450 implementers around the world now, which is pretty cool to see the community grow. And we all have our own businesses, and, you know, but we all really focus on the same thing and really helping organizations get, you know, clear and crystal clear and simplify their business. This is something that's really powerful and impactful. I think that, you know, as of last year, 110,000 companies were using tools. That is expected to climb exponentially this year, past the 200,000 mark for sure, which again, if you look at the implementers in the community, just how many people are picking up the book, getting results, this is not going to slow down. You're going to continue to hear about it. It's why so many of you are here. You eventually heard about it once, and then I'm sure a couple of times after that where you got curious enough to pick up the book. So again, it's all about results. So it works if you follow the process and steps, and these tools are very impactful for organizations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what we call the EOS model. Typically, this is a 2 to 3 hour workshop. No, I'm not going to spend 2 to 3 hours on it, but I want people to understand, and for those of you on the call that are going through this or interested in this, to really just understand the 6 components that we use when we talk about EOS, and really how your business fits into that, and really what to expect if you're to move through this process. So I'm going to put the overall EOS model up on the screen. As you can see, your business is at the center. This is all about your business. And really what we say is every component of your business is important. Look, you got 153,000 issues going on in your business every single day. What EOS is meant to do is to break down every single one of those issues and actually be able to put them into one of these components. I promise you, there's not one issue that does not fit into one of these buckets. And at the end of the day, when you do that exercise, you start to see kind of where your organization is strong and where it needs some support. For those of you who have not taken this, I will put it in the chat at the end, but the organizational checkup is a huge tool. It is free. It is something that I would tell any leadership team to take. It's going to actually ask you a series of questions and give you the ability to understand where your organization is at today in each of these components. Please do not be shocked by your results. Average companies right now kick back usually about 25%. They are succeeding in spite of themselves. So that's not to panic. It shows you what a huge upside, that if your company is actually making money, you're growing, and you're still looking at that type of threshold when you're starting this, you see the upside of where you can go. Now you're going to see on the side of the screen, there's a goal. The reason the goal is 80% is 100%, we call it utopia, right? It's never going to happen. That's perfection. My perfectionists out there are going to try to prove me wrong. Look, when you're at that 80% sweet spot in all of these components, your business is humming. So we use that as a barometer to say, in each of these components, when you're there, you graduate from EOS. It doesn't mean you stop using the tools. It means you graduate, you push me out of a job, you move nicely into your quarterlies and annuals, and you're really just set up for success, understanding how to use these tools very, very well. Look, we do have companies and clients. The highest I've seen, I think, is 94%. They're trying to reach that 100, but they've really been bouncing right there. So it is attainable, but again, I think it's a really cool metric that this isn't all smoke and mirrors, right? This is measurable stuff as you move through the process. I mean, you're really looking at all of these components. So I'm going to start at the top for vision. Vision is, when we go through this, this is actually a 16-hour exercise. And for those of you who eyes just bugged out, here's why. This is just a crucial part of laying the foundation for your organization. So even if clients come to me and they already have their vision set, we do these exercises. And really within that, we answer 8 questions. These 8 questions really become a high-level business plan. We share the tool VTO, which I'll share a little bit about as we move through this. And that is just really your vision traction organizer, right? And so these 8 questions start with your long-term goals. And as we move through them, we really get all the way down to break those goals to a 3-year plan, a 1-year plan, down to a 90-day plan, also answering a lot of questions of what's your focus in your organization, what are your core values, what's your sweet spot, what's your passion, what's your niche, right? All of those questions fundamentally that are going to propel your organization forward are answered in those days, which become, again, that platform to kind of move forward. Now, this one makes people laugh. The discipline we say here is shared by all. Again, simple, but I cannot tell you how many leadership teams that have come to me and they say, Mel, our team just doesn't understand it. And I ask, how many times have you shared it? Well, once. You have to share it 10 times, 30 times, 40 times, right? Like your organization needs to be living and breathing this. And that's by the example of the leadership team and how many times this is rolled out and said. So really just getting clear on that and then ensuring that everyone in your organization is involved in it. Moving over to people. So I would tell you 80% of the people that typically come to EOS looking for help has to do with people in some sort of form, right? They're frustrated with people, they don't have the right people, they're really struggling to manage and understand, what's not working, why people aren't, grabbing on to what they deem their vision, right? And so this becomes a very important component as we look at how to move your organization forward. So people, we're going to talk about a couple of things. There is some insanely beneficial tools. I wish I had it in my corporate career. When we start talking about right people, we actually use a tool called the People Analyzer. Again, I'll kind of go through that here in a little bit. But this is all about getting right people in your organization. And right people means you just spent 16 hours on your vision and culture. We want to make sure that those people match up, right? So it's really understanding, what does right mean to your organization? Do they match your culture? Do they understand the job? Do they have the capacity to do the job? Asking those questions just to ensure, again, that you have the right people. And so there's a lot of tools that we work through in that. We talk a lot about right seats. So the accountability chart, huge, huge, huge in this. It all starts with the accountability chart. We talk a lot about structure, roles. Before we ever talk about your staff, we'd like to ensure that your seats are designed to move your organization forward. Again, I cannot tell you how many organizations will have their unicorns sitting in a seat that are causing all sorts of problems, but they're bringing in sales. And look, I beg and I plead with my clients all the time that if you do come down, it comes down to that you have a person that is performing but does not fit your culture. I'm going to beg with you to get rid of the problem, right? And it doesn't mean you're going to start terming people right and left. It's going to expose, again, what's the right structure for your company and who are the right people for your organization. You have to have both. And that's really what those tools allow you to have visibility to. Moving on to data. Everyone's business, everyone on this call, you guys focus on data every day, right? There is, you could have thousands of numbers that you focus on. Some of us focus on too much, others don't focus enough, right? And so this is just really understanding what are the numbers of your business, boiling it down to a handful of numbers that are going to propel the business forward, taking the ego out of it. It's not theory, it's actual, these are the numbers that are going to move us forward, right? And that's just the measurables on that. A lot of us, we look at our P&Ls, right? P&Ls tell you a story after the fact. And so this is, again, just what numbers need to be there every single day to be able to move the needle forward. So we use a tool called a scorecard for that. That is a 15-week running scorecard that's going to actually break down those numbers. Who owns those numbers? That's going to be talked about every single week in your leadership team meetings, which we'll go through. And again, just kind of makes that more impactful for what are we really focused on. It's all going to tie back into those goals that we've set through that vision component and really tie nicely in with everything. So once you move through vision, people, and data, I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff's going to come to the surface. This is the point in your organization where every issue, everything that needs to be exposed is going to bubble up. It is designed to do that. Do not panic. This is where kind of the rubber meets the road, right? And so issues is another big component. EOS is designed to help leadership teams identify what are your issues and actually provide tools to work through those issues in a timely manner, again, without ego. We've all sat in the meetings where it's been 2 hours long and we've literally not moved to the second issue because somebody can't get off that, because quite frankly, they think they're right. You know, they don't want to hear the other side, and that happens in every organization. So there are tools that we roll out to instill that discipline to say, look, we got to have an issues list. We got to know what's priority as a leadership team. We have to understand, how do we identify that? How do we discuss it? And how do we move to solve it very, very efficiently? And this is a little awkward at first, right? This creates a lot of challenging conversations, but moving through that, once you get to the other side and you're comfortable, this is probably the biggest game changer throughout the process with leadership teams of just, we are really, really good, Mel, at setting up our issues and knocking them down once and for all. Moving over to processes. So this is also a very simple process in the EOS toolbox, but also one of the most challenging. So this is really just getting everything documented and everybody on the same page and followed by the entire organization, right? And so when you look at an organization, if you look at your processes today, how many do you have? How many departments know about other departmental processes? How many are duplicates, right? And really just putting everything on the table with a leadership team, knowing that you really only need 7 to 9 processes. It's documenting all of that, it's simplifying it, and then it's sharing it with the organization. What happens when things change, things are added? How do you get that out to the entire team? Those types of things that are really important, especially as you're growing, processes become a very pivotal part of your success. And finally, last but not least, traction. So traction is a fancy word for accountability. And I will tell you that this becomes the focus. Everything else that you see in the components as we work through, without traction, it wouldn't matter, right? So after you move through understanding and learning all the tools in the entire EOS toolbox, we move into something called traction, which requires us to focus on rocks, which is just a silly fancy word for goals, which is 90-day goal setting, right? So instead of, you know, the leaders on this team that have sat in leadership meetings that say, hey, we get together at the end of the year, we talk about what worked, what didn't, you know, we have meetings consistently throughout the year, but we're not really talking about what's gotten done. This is the part of the process that really changes the game. You do not let up. Every 90 days, you're back in a room. What's happened? What's worked? How are we tracking what got done? There's no discussion and finger pointing. It's what do we need to do now to get to the next 90-day mark, right? And those 90-day marks matter. If you go back up to the vision component, we set the 10-year goal, the 3-year goal, the 1-year goal, the 90-day goal, right? And so in order to achieve the 1 year, we know that those 90-day goals has to be met. So this is where the accountability becomes widely important in an organization at every single level of who owns what in those 90-day increments to get you to that next level of growth. And meetings, again, talk about something that's simple for those of you on the call who have not experienced an L10 meeting. If there's anything you take away from this call, please go read traction and try to run an L10 meeting. It will change your life. It really will. And it is a simple set of tools and agendas and really teaching and coaching a leadership team how to actually structure their meetings. I know several implementers in the community that actually got into EOS as an implementer because they sat in an L10 meeting and they were blown away by just the efficient and effective dialogue that people were having. Issues were discussed. There wasn't banter back and forth. They moved through the agenda. We're just really getting things cleaned up. They started on time, ended on time, right? Everything was consistent. And so that becomes a really big part and a really instrumental tool in organizing everything as you're moving through the process. So I'm going to give you just a sneak peek in a couple of the tools that I mentioned because I want you to have something to take away too. These can be, again, implemented today if you take 1 or 2 tools away, but I'll call these the foundational tools within EOS. So again, this is right out of the gates when leadership teams and I work together. These are the tools that get addressed right away. So I want to start with the accountability chart. Going back to that people component, this is huge. We start with accountability. Here's why. You can't actually have accountability if you don't know what you're accountable for, right? And so if you make the mistake of setting goals without anybody being accountable for it, it's very easy for a leadership team to sit down and say 50 million, sure, we'll do it, right? We've all done the bobblehead and we've seen it happen. This sets the stage for what's the right structure of the business, what's the functions, and what are the roles. Again, we're going to keep the personnel off the table. So, you know, if Wendy is in a seat, we're not talking about if she's right for the seat or not. We're actually setting the stage for the organization as no employee exists yet. That creates the accountability. So when we flip the script and turn the page to the next step, we've got this accountability. Now we get to start filling in with people and seeing where the missing gaps and the overlaps are, so we can start actually holding people accountable when we're setting goals. Again, this is just a breakdown of that. You're going to see we don't talk titles. Again, we try to keep ego out of this as much as possible. We get so stuck in our world right now, you know, VP, director, no, none of it. When we do this, we leave all of that off the table. I'm purely interested in the function of what the role does and what the role entails itself at a high level, so we can start to understand what everybody's role in the organization, again, where's that overlap, what needs to be done, what needs to be restructured. This is a high level, again, as this is built out. A lot of you are going, well, this looks a lot like my org chart. Yes, when you actually implement EOS, we tell you throw your org chart out. You're going to use this, and the accountability chart's going to be your new org chart. Again, looking at it, modeling it the way that we talk about it. So you'll see marketing, sales, operations, finance. Those are the functions of the roles. Meeting with the leadership team, and then from there on out, just to rebuild this. We do visit this every 90 days too, to make sure that there's no changes needed, as ads are obviously very crucial to an organization. It's what's coming down the pipe. What does this look like as far as our goal setting, right? That fits into that 90-day, 1 year, 3 year, 10-year plan. So the famous VTO, again, this is going to become your business plan. Gino did a lot of work actually on the business planning side strategically. And, you know, what he came to find is, you know, again, once again, we've overcomplicated business, and I'm by no means telling anybody to throw away their business plan. You know, we all have them. They're great tools. But again, this is just simplifying of, can you really get that down on 2 pages to tell you and your team, where are you going? How are you going to get there? What are you focused on? The answer is yes. And so this tool is, again, that 16-hour, 2-day offsite that I talked about. This is the tool we focus on. And so the first half is day 1, and the second half is day 2. So this is all going to be about the core values, again, your core focus, breaking that down, really establishing that high level target of where you're going. Talking about your marketing strategy. For those of you in marketing, I was in marketing, don't panic. We are not saying that there's only 4 questions that need to be answered, but with your marketing department present, it's getting very specific, right? Of what is your process? What makes you different? What are you guaranteeing to your customers? Who are you focused on, right? That laser focus that's going to be back to your core focus. Marketing has to be aligned on that. So it's very crucial that that's part of this. Moving over to your 3-year picture, after we've set your 10-year target, we're actually going to, once we get to 3-year, we're going to start talking in the consistent terms of revenue, profit, measurables, and what does it look like. So here's where we start consistently now getting very crystal clear on designing what does the business need to look like today as far as a measurable goal, and what does it need to as action items to get to that next 10-year, whatever high level target was set. When this is all done, we flip it over and I say, this is where traction side comes in. So if you see, we're using the same consistent metrics here. We're going to talk about our 1 year. So again, what revenue do you need to hit in year 1, right? What's that profit? What are you measuring? How are you measuring? And what are your goals for the year? You're going to see Rocks, same thing. Rocks again is that 90-day world. So we're just backing in, and then your issues list always is going to be in front of you. There's only 10 lines. You're going to need a couple hundred. I promise you that's not a bad thing. But as you move through this, I'm going to, again, beg you, please keep your issues list going, because as painful as it can be, it's so important as you move through this for your entire leadership team to just be on the same page. You'll also notice that there's only 7 lines under the 1-year plan and rocks. That is for a reason. Please don't have 22 goals for the quarter or the year. You will not hit, typically you won't hit more than 2 of them. I would much rather somebody set 4 rocks and hit them all, because it's going to move you faster than the person that thinks that they're going to, again, have 22 goals and get set. It's not realistic. And so again, this is supposed to be, we're setting realistic goals here so we can actually, knock them down and continue to move forward. And so again, that line only going to 7 is meaningful. Also, you'll notice who this becomes, especially when we get to the 90-day world. You do not have goals that are set without somebody being assigned. Every time you're coming back together, when we went through that accountability chart, somebody owns it, right? So again, all back to that accountability and discipline. Moving on to the people analyzer, also a game changer next to the L10 meeting. I wish I had this tool. Please don't overuse this tool. I have so many people that fall in love with this tool and they use it every day. It's not meant for that, but this is a cool barometer in an organization. For those of you who are managers at any level, I definitely tell you, use this. Again, you're going to see it really kind of shed light on anybody in your organization and really see who's a fit. So when we go back to the vision component, we've established your culture, your core values, right? And so I'm using EOSs as an example. Those are our core values. And so you're basically going to write out your core values at the top. You're going to write every single person that reports to you on the left, right? And you're going to go through. Do they demonstrate it? Give them a plus. Do they sometimes? Plus, minus. And do they not? They're going to get a minus, right? So this is just, again, that rubric of you're going to see who fits your culture. At the end of that, you're going to add on 3 columns, get it, want it, capacity to do it. This is also very crucial to the success of your team. Do they get the job? Do they have the mental capacity, the skill set, right? Does it fit who they are? And really, you need to hone in on that, because if they don't get it, this often happens in organizations. It's not going to matter if they fit your culture. It's not going to matter if they want it. They need to get it and understand it. Want it becomes also very crucial. I see this a lot as well, as managers will promote somebody, their team member will take the promotion, and they really don't have the conversation of, is this something you really want? People see it as, this is the next step in my career. However, they really don't want it. So this is really having the conversation is, what do your employees want next? What is that next role? And unless they really want it, don't give it to them. And that really just helps keep you in check. And then capacity, again, is that could go back to time. What else are they working on? Again, that can go back to skill sets. Do they have the capacity to do the job? That bar at the end, you set that. Every organization is different. What's your threshold? Do they need 4 out of the 5? Do they need all 3 yeses? Again, I kind of leave that up to leadership teams to decide. Moving on to the scorecards. So remember, in the data component, we talked about that rolling scorecard. So whoever you are in your organization, again, you are going to look at numbers consistently across the board all the time, right? It's very important. This is very, I would say, eye-opening, sitting in a lot of meetings when this is pulled up every week. It is a simple, after you set the goal and you're sitting in those meetings, it's a thumbs up or thumbs down. There's no discussion. So if I'm Ann in that seat and my metric needs to be 84,500, I'm giving a thumbs up. If I'm not, it's going into the red, right? So you can kind of see in rolling time, this is really going to start to stand out of where's really your inconsistencies and your challenges. Again, everyone's got a seat at the table. Who's going to own it? And it's going to stare at you, right? And so then those numbers go right on that issues list to be able to discuss later on in that meeting. But this, again, is going to give you the snapshot of what do we need to do today to continue to propel the business forward. All right, meeting pulse. Again, this is the L10, and we're going to go through the agenda very quickly too. But this is the meeting pulse. This lives in your 90-day world. So when we talk about rocks, this is when you're meeting. I don't care what team you are, but leadership teams that I work with, when they're having their weekly meeting, because this is so simple. Again, same day, same time, start on time, end on time. How many of you know the people that think it's okay to show up 15 minutes late and then get up because they have something more important to do, right? You're actually making a statement on your leadership team when you're allowing that to happen, or if you're the person doing that. Also, what's your agenda? Being consistent. Who's running the meeting? Who's starting the dialogue? Who's keeping you on time, right? These things that, again, are breaking down, very important, very simple, but they get missed in our world all the time in meetings. Everyone's busy, but once you establish the routine and get into it, it is a game changer in your organization, and you will see that. So this is the high level agenda. This is every single meeting of a company running on EOS. This is their structure for when they meet with their leadership team on their weekly meetings, right? So you're going to start with your good news. People ask, Mel, do I have to? Yes, please do. This is such a big culture building opportunity to learn about your teammates, to celebrate people. Going around sharing a personal and professional best, you're going to learn a lot about your team. All the way down. And it's just really, really important that this doesn't get missed. The next 5 minutes, only 5 minutes, scorecard. Remember, you saw those numbers. You're going to simply, do we hit it or not? Yes or no? There's no, Bob's not in the corner trying to explain to me why he didn't hit that. That's not what this meeting's for, right? So it's a simple checks and balances. Did we hit it or not? Moving on to the rock review, same exercise. So on those goals that we've set, are we on track? Yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down. This is not the time to dispute or give an excuse or explain. We'll get to that later. Customer and employee headlines. This is very important piece of this too. This gives you 5 minutes of just what's going on in the organization that the leadership team needs to be aware of. So whether it was a customer win, something to celebrate with an employee, something that maybe happened to an employee, something that was really high level that needs to be dealt with as a customer. This is your 5 minutes, like what's our high level, good, bad, and everything in between for our customers and employees. And then your to-do list. This is always going to be a running to-do list that comes out of these meetings. Did those actions get complete from the last meeting? Again, it's a yes, a no. There's no debate and discussion for it. And then you continue to move on. So again, 5 minutes for each of those. And I promise you, if you hold yourself to the task and you start timing that, it's going to feel awkward at first. But once you get there, you are going to love being in meetings so much better. Moving on to issues list. So you're going to see 60 minutes. So all of those things, scorecards, rock reviews, things that didn't get complete, those are all, whoever's keeping minutes in meeting notes are getting dropped down to the issues list, right? So the issues list is really what these meetings become about. Your entire leadership meetings are discussing issues. And again, going back to that tool, EOS has now taught you how to identify that, how to do those discussions, how to prioritize, and how to solve those issues. So a lot of these issues moving through in a 60-minute time period, it is incredibly amazing. As I've done this exercise, which I never thought was possible. The EOS community, we get together. There was over 100 of us together in Michigan this past fall, and we get in a room and we discuss the same thing. We do the same exercise, and we moved through over 60 issues in an hour with a group of 100 people. I was absolutely amazed. We all know how to follow the process, but there's just, again, when you take out the bantering and there's no theory and who's got real-time experience with this, it's a game changer of understanding how do you solve your issues and move it to solve. If you can't, then put it on the to-do list. Let's come back to it, but it keeps people moving and progress going in your organization. And then concluding. So 5 minutes, I always say this because we want to wrap up on time. Again, going back, be respectful to your teammates, be respectful to everybody, right? Like get everybody out of there on time so they're on time for their next meeting. And that starts and stops with you. So that is the entire model. Again, very, very fast paced through there. There's a lot of meat within this, but it does give you a little bit of visibility into the tools. Within those tools are always more tools. EOS has a plethora of depth to it when you start going through the toolbox and what's there. Always meeting your organization where it's at, right? Every organization is different. So these tools are meant to be adapted into your organization, and then what else do you need to be added on for where you're at. So if people's a big challenge for you, we're going to spend a lot of time there to make sure that that component is going to get to that 80% strong on its way to 100, and that's going to be the focus, right? Other people are going to spend more time on vision, but at the end of the day, there's always another tool in the toolbox that we can help use and to support you. So I want to run through the process really quickly. I get asked this question a lot. So there's two ways people do this, and some of you are self-implementing on this call. Self-implementing is totally okay. I would encourage that if you're not ready to hire an implementer, to use a couple of the tools and discuss if self-implementing is right for you. Self-implementing is going to require a lot of discipline and a lot of accountability, right? You really have to have somebody in your organization charged and tasked with making sure that you're moving through this process and you're holding everybody accountable, right? So facilitating some of those challenging conversations, finding that integrator, that's something that I can actually help support with. I do help get a lot of companies set up if they're going to start self-implementing. I do actually take on a lot of clients coming out of self-implementation. They may have self-implemented for a year, and again, they just hit that ceiling and they're ready to actually hire an implementer. So this is the process if you do hire an implementer. We always start with a 90-minute meeting. I call it the interview dance, right? So it's getting to know me and me getting to know you, ensuring that your organization is ready. Is your leadership team aligned? You kind of fit that mold. Are the buzzwords there that we talk about, who's this a right fit for? And just making sure that you understand the high level components of EOS, how they work in your organization. If we get past that session, you get 2 thumbs up, on both sides, we move right into focus day. So I want you to note that each of these sessions, anytime that I work with a company, is all day offsite sessions. So 7 to 8 hours. Never at your office. That's on purpose. We just like, making sure that people can stay focused. And there's a lot of work that is done in these days. A lot comes at you. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose for the most part. And so we really ask that people give full attention. It's an investment for your company, and just making sure that you can focus. So starting in that focus day, the first time that you see me, again, we're going to be offsite with the leadership team. We're going to talk about hitting the ceiling, where you're at, and some of the tools that go with that. We're going to move right into the accountability chart, which is, let's say, 60% of that first day. Remember, we say accountability first, vision second. There's a reason for that. So we are going to start laying the structure with the function, roles, and that entire accountability chart, and start filling that in and working through that with your team. From there, we're going to immediately start setting some rocks and goals, because we want to make sure that you're leaving that room understanding that, we're going to set the VTO the next time we meet, but really discussing what those rocks mean and giving kind of a high level to that. We're going to introduce the meeting pulse. We're going to go through L10, how to run an L10 meeting, how to rate it. This is something that I did not tell you. This is actually a game changer too. At the end of every meeting, you actually are going to rate your meetings. Everyone in your on your team, right? They're going to give it a 1 to 10, 10 being the best meeting they've ever been in, 0 being that was a terrible meeting. Most people, when they start these, they're going to be at about a 4, right? Because it's just going to be dysfunctional. We really say if you can get your meetings to that 8, 9, you're doing really well. And so you're going to immediately leave the room starting those meetings, that meeting pulse, and really start scoring that so we can track that, see where some of the mishaps are and the opportunities are to help you get really strong at that. And then we're going to take your first crack at the scorecard. Again, those numbers, those measurables that we're going to look at now that we have the accountability chart set. We've kind of understand the roles and functions. That scorecard is going to be the next natural step in progression in the process. You're then going to get a 30-day break from me, because you have a lot to digest, right? So this is time space for a reason, because we want to make sure that when you're going back and working with the team, the leadership team has enough time to, do you understand the tools, practice with them, have conversations, come back. There's going to be issues. We're going to work through them. We're going to start vision building day 1, by making sure that everything's cleaned up from focus day. And we're going to jump right into that VTO. So if you see there's 2 separate days, still 30 days space, answering those 8 questions. So this is that 16-hour, very impactful vision building days that we talk about. So really 4 of those questions are going to be answered in day 1. That's how powerful and impactful they are. Core values, there's a lot of exercises we're going to go through. Getting to your core focus, there is a lot of conversation, and again, tools that we use to make sure that you are laser focused on what you need to be. And then again, setting that 10-year target, where are you going, right? You got to put something into the GPS to get you to that destination. So we're going to set that, and then we're going to move into the marketing strategy. When we come back together, we're going to finish that off again, always cleaning up the tools that have been introduced. At the end of that third session, again, the ones in the blue, you are going to have the foundational tools really set, and you're gonna be, I'll say, dangerous enough with them to be making a lot of progress and building momentum. At this time, some teams choose to roll out some things to their mid-level management. Their company has kind of heard now the word EOS. You may choose to send the book to everybody in the company. This is what we're doing as we continue to build. From there, you move into quarterly pulsing, we call it. This is simply every quarter you meet, again, offsite. Your annuals, it's a 2-day back-to-back annual. We're going through all the tools. We're gonna refocus. I know my head's in the way, so for those of you who can't see, we're gonna just align, make sure that team health and culture is there. We're gonna focus a ton on goal setting, resetting rocks, checking in, what worked, what didn't, what was hit, what was done on the to-do list. And honestly, it moved to a lot of issue solving. So quarterlies and annuals become a lot of dialogue around what issues are still on the table, how do we move them to solve, and again, keeping that momentum moving forward. And then finally, just making sure that accountability chart is up to date. Again, that becomes kind of your Bible of EOS of how you're holding people accountable and what that looks like as you're building the organization. So we continue to keep that kind of top of mind and work backwards. So again, that people analyzer comes out. There's a lot of people, whether they're issues or questions that we continue to talk about, making sure that, you know, again, that foundation is always set and is always strong. We reinforce where we need to and then move from there. And that is EOS in a, again, very high level, 30,000 foot vantage point. I would love if anyone has questions, you can put them in the chat. Feel free to email me. If you do want a link to the organizational checkup, please drop your email privately to me or shoot me an email. I'm happy to send that. Again, I would encourage everybody to take that, no matter if you're thinking of using EOS or not. I think it's just good and valuable information. There's a couple of snippets under each of the components that you can start doing right away today in your organization to just help you along. And I'm here to help. So anything that I can do, always, again, I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. And, you know, EOS has changed my life and it's changed a lot of companies out there and organizations. And it's a cool tool. So I appreciate everybody making the time. It was good to see familiar faces and new faces. And with that, I'll stay on. Any questions, again, put them in the chat. Otherwise, everyone have a fantastic day. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Wendy. Good to see you. Thanks, Rachel. Good to see you too.